guys, you're watching Shasta's Teen Journal, and I'm your host, Shasta, and I kind of wanted to just give you guys a quick update on what's going on in my TV business world. I'm actually starting a new talk show at the end of this year, which is going to be Shasta's Journey, which is going to be about my path to purpose, and it's going to be all about the people who inspire me and who I come across along my journey, and it's going to be really amazing because everybody has a story to share, and I hope that their stories can heal, teach, and inspire one of you. And it's going to be really awesome to end Shasta's Teen Journal the way that I am, with doing a 2-part episode series of breast cancer awareness. And on this episode, I will be interviewing 2 survivors who have impacted my life quite a bit, and I hope that their stories teach and inspire you guys, and I hope that you guys get a lot of knowledge and inspiration out of this. So let's go ahead and interview the 2 survivors. So we have Nicole and Kathy. So I want to just start off by asking you guys when you guys were diagnosed with breast cancer.
For me, it was September 2012.
And how long was the range of you having it until you were treated?
I found it in, I think it was July, and then I was diagnosed by September.
Okay, well, what about you, Kathy?
Well, I found mine in January of 2012, and from the day that I went to my gynecologist, which was the 28th of January, until the day I was in surgery, it was a month.
Wow, that sounds pretty quick.
Yeah, and it was very, very thorough. Before I got there, it was with a mammogram, an ultrasound, core biopsies, an MRI. Yeah. It was all, I was blessed with a brilliant surgeon, and he was very, very thorough and very, very quick.
That's great. And what symptoms did you start having for you to go and check out if you even have breast cancer?
I found the lump myself, and I had symptoms, but I didn't know they were symptoms until I found the lump. So that's what happened for me, and I had all the same things that she had, but September I was diagnosed, and I didn't have my surgery until November, so there was a little bit more time in between for me, but it was just, that was the decision that was made between the surgeons and the plastic surgeon and everybody to be in the same room at the same time and just to kind of have everything.
Gotcha. Well, what were your symptoms that you were having that you didn't really recognize until you were actually diagnosed?
I had, it's kind of weird, but I had, my mouth was really hot, which is weird. It's kind of a strange thing, but all the tissue in my mouth was really, really hot. I was drinking ice water all the time. I didn't know what was going on. It was like it's weird, I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's like a sick, hot feeling, like it was like a taste and a sensation. And then like a kind of uneasy, sort of dizzy-ish thing that was coming and going. But I didn't know what it was. And I would tell my husband, like, something's weird, something's not right, I don't know what it is. And then I found the lump, and then I was diagnosed, and then kind of the whole picture came together. And then the day after surgery, when the cancer was gone, the hot mouth was gone, and all the other stuff was gone.
Dang.
I know,
and
weird.
Kathy, what were your symptoms when
I didn't have any.
None. Did you find the lump?
I was in perfect health. I was working full time. I had no idea anything was wrong, but I always did self-exams on a very frequent basis, and I was in the shower one morning and I felt my left breast and I thought, well, something isn't right there. So I finished the shower and went and laid down and put my arm up, and I thought, definitely not right. And it wasn't, I'd had a lump before when I was in my early 20s, and it felt like a frozen pea or a hard, a marble.
So that's small.
Oh yeah, but this one was not like that. This felt like I had a piece of beef jerky in there. It was more, there's a word and I can't think of what it is, but it was more fibrous. That's the word I wanted. And it felt more rectangular.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so I almost didn't go to my gynecologist because I thought, you're making a big deal out of it. And then I thought, yeah, and you're really being stupid. So go to your gynecologist and have her check it out. And my gynecologist did, and it was when she felt that she didn't have one of those oh crap moments. She thought it was a fibrous mass. But we moved the process forward, and sure enough, it was breast cancer.
Wow. And do you guys really think that people should be doing self-exams daily? You know, I mean, as far as
Constantly.
All the time.
because obviously you guys have found it quick enough for, you know, to give the doctors enough time to.
They're always changing. Your breasts are always changing. Different times of the month, all that. You have to know what you have going and not be afraid to speak up or ask your doctor or tell your doctor. Yeah.
What were the steps to getting it diagnosed?
Well, for me, I called a doctor, my regular doctor. She obviously
I called
a
my
different doctor, but I
gynecologist,
called
right.
my regular doctor and said I found a lump, and then I went into that doctor, and then they sent me to they sent me for a mammogram first, and then I went to ultrasound, this, that, the other, and then they had me to the just a surgeon, but then obviously once they did a biopsy, that was no more, surgical oncologist right away.
Yeah. And were your not symptoms, but was your diagnosing process a little bit different than Nicole's? Or
Not
was
too much. It sounds like we went through a similar process, similar testing. You know, like I said, the doctor was meticulous in determining what, you know, as best he could, what we were dealing with before we even went into surgery. Because as I've found out, and I'm sure Nicole has, cancer is like every human being, in that there are no two cancers that are exactly alike. It's not the cancer that I faced when I was, or that women faced when I was your age. There's a lot more they know, there's a lot more that they're looking for and diagnosing.
Were the mammograms painful at all?
They're uncomfortable. I've had a mammogram before I had cancer, and that was uncomfortable but not painful. But when you have, well, for me anyway, having a lump in my breast and having a mammogram was painful.
Yeah, it was a different level.
Yeah.
Because they have to get the tissue compressed flat enough as best they can so that they get the clearest picture possible. And like Nicole, I would say, yeah, it was uncomfortable. There was a new level because they really wanted the clearest picture possible.
And the lump was painful to squeeze.
Oh,
period.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
they said to me before, they said, oh, it's okay. When they first talked to me, they said, it's good that you have some pain because the doctor said to me, cancer doesn't hurt generally, is what my regular doctor said to me. And I said, oh, okay, that's kind of good. And did the mammograms and everything, and it hurt. To squeeze it, it hurt. To get the biopsy made it hurt really bad.
Wow.
Yeah, as soon as they did the biopsies, which they did 2 on the lump that I had, it hurt bad.
Did you guys do research on your own time about breast cancer, or were you guys pretty already knowledgeable about it? No, not at all?
Yeah, I was.
Did you?
You did?
Yeah. I'm a voracious reader, and I've been following a lot of things. You know, I'm 61 years old, and I'm very, very curious. And you got to remember, when I was in my early 20s, everything was changing for female health care, because up until that point, doctors were God, and you never asked questions, and women weren't partners in their health care. But then with the women's liberation movement and the things that changed towards the end of the 60s and early 70s, women started demanding, no. You don't get to just go in and do a radical mastectomy and say, okay, you're good, go home. So I've been watching this as a progression of women's rights for 40 years. So yeah, I've done a lot of reading and a lot of research, and if you get diagnosed with breast cancer, stay off of the internet, because it will scare the shit out of you, and 90% of it is crap.
I always
Sorry,
try
Ed.
diagnosing myself, and I always think that I'm going to die.
I got-
I'm not even kidding.
Yeah. You get an overload.
WebMD,
anyway.
it makes you so scared.
You
You
really
get so
do.
much information, you get it thrown at you all over, so you're already on overload. And I would repeat things back, and my husband would say, that's not what they said. And I'm like, are you sure that's not what they said? That's what they said. And sure enough, I'd be wrong because you get so much information already. So if you're trying to look up information then on your own too, it's like,
Well, then you have everybody's opinions
it's
and
too
all
much.
these skeptics
Yeah.
and just,
It's a
yeah.
really
much.
good time to be rude and say, excuse me, one, is this a happy ending story? If not, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Two, are you a doctor? If not, I don't want to hear it.
Right.
I found that there was a particular point in time I didn't even want to talk to other women who had gone through it or were going through it because their story is not my story. And I can freak myself out enough
True. It's true.
without listening to what other women went through. This is going to be my healthcare.
Yeah, it's your guys' journey.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
that's exactly why I wanted to have you guys on and for you guys to be able to share your story because I think it's really important because your guys' story might teach, heal, or inspire somebody else because all of our pain and suffering can go ahead and give somebody else hope.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because there are people that you're able to relate with, even though that your stories and journeys are going to be different.
Right.
At least you guys have a happy, hopeful inspiration story that I think when people, hear it, that they know that there is hope and that, medical and everything is at the point right now that it is possible to beat it and it is possible.
Fear is your worst enemy.
Yeah.
I got to calling it Voldemort.
And
Yeah.
as far as treatment goes, what treatment processes were offered to you? Why'd you choose the one that you ended up doing as far as your treatment goes?
So, well, they offered, mastectomy, of course, and then chemo and radiation, and that's what you get.
And which one did you choose?
Both.
Both, as far as chemo and radiation, or?
I did chemotherapy first, and then I did radiation.
And you did lose your hair, and that's
Yeah.
something that Kathy didn't have to experience.
That's because I didn't have either.
Yeah.
I had, by the time they had excised the lump, it was diagnosed as stage 3 breast cancer, and I had it in one sentinel lymph node. You have, I think it's 11 lymph nodes, 2 in your armpit, 9 down your arm. And I had it in one sentinel lymph node. I was very fortunate in that my healthcare team was able to send my tumor off to a lab that determines the DNA of the tumor. It's called determining its oncotype.
Mine too.
Mine, what they do is they look for different markers. And then they score those markers from 0 to 100. And depending on how many markers you have and where your score lands, it helps them better put out a treatment plan for you. Mine scored at 16. 0 to 18 means that you have, their best guess is you've got a 10% chance of it coming back. So I had a very low chance of recurrence. It was in just the one breast, but I chose to have a double mastectomy. Humor is your best friend and stuff like this. And I told my girls, they're both in a race for my navel anyway. I'd rather just be even. I'm a symmetrical kind of person. I was strong and healthy, and I thought, I don't want to have to worry about whether or not it's going to build a new terrorist camp in the right side. We'll just take them both and be done. And because of that, and there was no cancer in the right side, and because they could determine my particular oncotype, every tumor is different.
Yeah.
Every treatment plan is different. So I chose not to have chemotherapy and not to have radiation. Because as I told my doctor, you don't get to decide when I die. That's up to God, and when he gets the hook and gets me off the stage,
Amen
I'm done.
to that.
So I get to decide what I do between surgery and that day. And because mine was an estrogen positive receptor tumor. Yeah.
Was that yours too?
Yeah.
Okay.
HER2 positive.
Yeah, and that meant it fed on estrogen. I'm taking a drug called Femara, which is the drug that they give to, my understanding is, because I'm not a doctor, My understanding is that's one of the drugs they prescribe to women who are past menopause. Because even though you're past menopause, you still keep creating estrogen. That's what your fat does.
Yeah.
And so if there are any terrorist cells running around in me, they're starving to death because I've taken Femara now for almost 3 years.
Wow. Wow. All right.
So
Well,
I take one that's for pre-menopausal. So I take an estrogen
So it's the
blocker.
same as her, pretty much?
I take one that's also an estrogen blocker because I had also hormone-fed cancer.
and do you think that you inherited it from it? No?
I did the testing, and I'm the only one in my family. Like we did the BRCA test, and there's me and nobody else.
Exactly.
Which is good, so I don't have to worry for my daughters, but I'm the only one.
My mother didn't have it. My grandmother didn't have it.
No.
You know, my family dies of heart disease.
Well, I'm excited to interview the three specialists as well, because I don't have any knowledge really on breast cancer. So to kind of get a little insight on, what causes breast cancer. There's so many different theories, and to kind of discuss that with them. But mostly it's, inherited. So I was just wondering if maybe you
No,
guys.
it's not mostly inherited.
No, not at all. It's just.
There's my limited understanding. There can be a genetic predisposition, like with the BRCA gene, but you don't necessarily inherit well, my grandmother had cancer, my great-grandmother had cancer. They don't know. There are some environmental conditions that can add to it. Like, they know smoking can cause cancer. It increases your risks. But I know a lady who's never smoked a day in her life, and she's got stage 4 lung cancer.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd love for there to be simple answers, and they've got a lot more than they used to, but there are no simple answers.
How was your journey to recovering after your treatment process?
Well, it's good. I mean, you go through the process and you do everything they tell you, and you fight. You want to, beat cancer. You want to get through everything and get back to normal. And then you get back to normal, and then you just have to, slow it down, and get through to where you don't have to look over your shoulder, feel nervous or whatever. So that's hard, and it's a little bit unnerving sometimes, but it's good.
And what do you think the hardest part about having breast cancer was for you, Nicole?
Just facing your own mortality, especially if you have children, Like I had just gotten married. I mean, I was with Travis a long time, but I had just gotten married. And so then that happened, and it was it's a wave of emotions. You get it from your children,
I'll bet.
and you get it, from yourself, from your husband, from your family members. You almost feel like you are putting everybody else's emotions at ease all the time. And then I would crawl into bed at night, and then I'd be able to cry my own emotions, with my husband. It's weird. It's a roller coaster.
Was that the same for you, Kathy?
In its own way, sure. I remember because you just go through this roller coaster of emotions. And at some point you just figure, well, fine, do your worst. And then there are times when you just crawl into bed and all you want to do is cry.
Yeah.
The weekend before my surgery, it was Friday. And my oldest wanted to come home with me, and I love her dearly, but as she knows, she can be pretty high maintenance. So she came into the bank and she said, can I come home with you this weekend and just stay with you and Amy so we can have some family time? Because, you're going to go into surgery on Tuesday. And I said, yes, of course you can. However, there's one rule. And she said, what's that? And I said, it's not about you this weekend. This weekend has to be all about me. I don't have the energy to put myself in the calmest place I can be, in the bravest place I can be, and face surgery on Tuesday and buck you up. You're going to have to think of me first. I can't console you, encourage you, etc. This weekend has got to be all about me. Oh, okay. And I said, then you can come home.
Yeah.
Because there are times when you just really need to be, I don't even call it selfish, I call it self-protecting.
Yeah, I mean, I totally
Yeah, my
agree.
husband, he did that. He's made it like he wanted no stress, just keep things, and he was very
Positive.
adamant, and yeah, and he really worked hard on that, like no drama, no stress, no nothing, and he kept it like that for a long while, just because it was.
And he was your support system in
Oh,
your
yeah.
family.
Oh, yeah.
And who was your support system?
Well, by and large, my daughters were. My daughters were my support system. Great friends, great family. And it's the best friends that you've had for like 20, 30, 40 years.
Who actually
That you can
care
just,
and-
well, they actually get it.
Well,
They
yeah.
know who you are, and they just, you can tell them, I can't talk right now. I'll call you later. And they'll go, yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
And what were the inner and outer changes that cancer had an effect on your body?
Well, obviously, you lose your breasts. That's
yeah,
outer
and then you
change.
lost your hair.
I lost my hair.
How
yeah.
long did it take for that to?
That was crazy. That well, I had super long hair.
Yeah, longer than mine, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I lost that, and then losing my eyelashes was rough. That was like when that finally happened. That was the last thing. That was rough. And it took, well, it happened fast. Within 2 weeks of the first chemo treatment, my hair was just came out. Don't make me cry.
Oh.
And so then we shaved it. We cut it first, and I donated it to Locks of Love. That was my first. And then my husband and my daughter went to Tahoe, and they were due back the next day, as well as my best friend was going to come up. And I was talking on the phone to her on Saturday, I think, and it was first thing in the morning, and I kind of went like this with my hand in my hair, and I didn't really pay attention, except I looked down in the sink like this, and I noticed there was a whole bunch of hair, and I went like that, and I said, oh my goodness. I said, you can't believe how much hair just came out of my head. And she said, are you kidding? I said, no, we're gonna have to shave it. So then we waited for Sadie to go to bed the next night when they got home, and Travis shaved my head, and oh man, he turned those clippers on, and boy, oh boy, the tears came. But he shaved it. But when it really came out, like when you lose it, no little nothing, just then you know, people really look at you like, because they can't discern whether or not, when you just have a little bit of hair, they think, did you do that for a friend, or, you know, they don't know. But when you have nothing, then they know it's you.
Dang. And
Yeah.
I know this is a little late, like, into the interview, but I wanted to ask you, what was your initial reaction when you were diagnosed with breast cancer?
It was surreal.
Oh,
Oh?
yeah, I can't say it. I already said one word I shouldn't say on
See, I
television,
thought
so
I
I
was
won't say the
being-
next one.
For me, the whole time I kept thinking in my own head, like, stop being so dramatic. Like, just stop being, it's everything's gonna be fine. You're just being dramatic. Because I always am so, like,
I get it.
But I wasn't being.
I'm stubborn. I'm
See,
stubborn.
I wasn't being dramatic. It was really there. And I went for an MRI or whatever I was going for that day. And the nurse was supposed to meet me with some results. She's like, I can't believe you haven't gotten your results yet. I'm gonna meet you. I'm like, okay. And then she came over and said, I need you to come over to the doctor's. The doctor wants to talk to you. And I knew when she wasn't giving me the results so I called Travis. I'm like, I have to go see the doctor. It's going to be bad. I know it. I knew it. So it was just very surreal. I just was like in a kind of a daze.
And what's your advice for, people who are, possibly going to go through it in the future, or somebody who's going through it right now, or somebody who has been affected by it from a family member or something like
Stay
that?
positive. Just
Well, and
stay positive.
I actually, as I showed with you, I wrote a little pamphlet because it has nothing medical in it. But what I found when I was going through this, when you're going to have a baby, there's all these books that says what to expect when you're expecting, and these pamphlets to say what you need to take to the hospital and all this kind of stuff. There is nothing like that for breast cancer. And so I sat down and I wrote, I made up a little pamphlet and I gave them to my doctor. I give them to anybody who's got them. And the first part is just, be positive. You know, you're not dead yet.
Yeah.
And chances are you won't be dead tomorrow and you won't be dead next week, so don't waste what time you've got. But on the flip side, very quickly, I'll synthesize it for you. What I discovered is when a woman's going to have breast cancer surgery, whether it's the mastectomy or the lumpectomy or whatever, there are things you should have in your bag. You should take an oversized man's shirt that buttons up, because you will not be able to put on a t-shirt after surgery. So you should have that. You should have a pair of pants that have an elastic waistband. Wear a pair of shoes that are either flip-flops or sandals that you don't have to bend over to put in your feet. And then what I discovered is that if you take a hand towel with you, because you're going to have to get in the car and then you're going to have to put on the seat belt. So take a hand towel with you, fold it lengthwise into thirds, and put it across your sternum here, and then pull the seat belt down.
Gotcha.
You've got cushioning here because it's very tender.
Yeah.
You know, except of course if they've given you a great shot of morphine before you leave, and then you don't care.
There's a lot of questions that I want to keep asking you, but I'm going to photocopy that and put it on the website. I have a few more questions I want to get through.
Sure.
And we're down to like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So what kept you going through your guys' journey? What's the number one thing that kept you going through your journey with breast cancer?
My family.
Family.
Love.
Faith.
Yeah.
And what is
faith,
something
for
you're
sure.
proud of after, going through it and overcoming it?
I think the example that I set going through it.
Going through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Teaching my daughters, you never let fear run your life. I don't care what you're facing, you do not let fear run your life.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and light these. And while we're lighting this cake that we made, how have you changed since you were diagnosed with breast cancer and after the whole process? How have you changed as a person?
I think that you find out what's important to you when you go through something like this that could easily be life-threatening. Cancer is definitely life-threatening. So it changes your view on what's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never been a big one about wasting time, and now it's even more so. And I don't let anybody else waste it either.
That's good.
I don't say, oh yeah, one day we should. One day is in the immediate future. If I'm going to say one day we should, then I'm going to do it now.
And this cake really represents just kind of the journey that I went through with Shasta's Teen Journal. It was an incredible chapter of my life, and I'm so thankful for everybody that was able to be a part of it, all the people that came on set to help me make this whole show happen, and thank you to Public Access for allowing me to do the show, and thank you to all the wonderful guests that I've had in the past. And we are going to go ahead and blow out the candles for a new chapter that is going to begin, and I'm starting a new talk show called Shasta's Journey, which you can go like on Facebook. If you've already liked Shasta's Teen Journal, you're good to go. Look up www.shastasteenjournal.weebly.com, and we're going to go ahead and blow out the candles. All right, 1, 2, no, all of us.
Okay.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you were inspired by these beautiful women who have amazing stories, and I hope that they teached, inspired, and healed one of you out there. So thank you, and continue to follow me along Shasta's journey, and I cannot wait for the new chapter to begin. Bye, guys.